Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg, and your Colonial Champion, Sean McCourt. Welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast!
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, once again to the Court-Martail Podcast. Out from the depths, we have resurfaced from the humble abodes to give you all of our ratings and reactions for SummerSlam 2023. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, and I'm going to be joined by two men today, but I've got one here right now, and one's going to be showing up a little bit later as we correspond our way through the good, the bad, and the MMA. To join me for at least half of this excursion, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. He is the Bay Area Brawler himself, Skylar Greenberg. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing all wonderful and hope everything's going well, even if you do get thunderstruck.
Well, no matter whether you feel like your power is out, whether in the most literal or figurative sense, allow us to energize, re-evolutionize, and reinvigorate you as we bring to you our takes on SummerSlam 2023, which for my money, Sky, was a pretty darn good show. It was, compared to what it was a year ago, I'd say it was on par, which is more than you could have asked for.
I think it's all we were asking for is just give us a good show with minimal questionable booking, and we'll be happy with it. And for the most part, they delivered.
And you know, it's funny, Skylar, it's kind of interesting. SummerSlam 2022, you know, somebody had just left and they had taken it over to do this, and then, you know, that person came back at January, and for 6 months, everybody was like, oh, this is kind of bad. And then, you know, spinal surgery takes that certain man out of the equation, and all of a sudden the pay-per-views start getting really good again. Do you see a through line?
Yeah, but the thing is that even with Vince McMahon not there actively, there are still things that Triple H does that annoy the fuck out of me.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you and I were alluding to last year, it may be Triple H's WWE, but it's still WWE.
Right, and there are certain things that now Triple H does when he's in charge that I groan at.
And certain things that we now know are just not going to change no matter what. You know, and they kind of have to make the best of that situation.
Hashtag bad formatting is hashtag still bad formatting no matter who does it.
That's right, but we're going to get into that a little bit, but why don't we just talk about our overall view of SummerSlam 2023, and then we are going to teleport to JoshAgeddon for match 1, and then we'll catch you back in match 2. But your overall thoughts of the show?
I mean, yeah, there were some gripes that I had, but overall, I thought SummerSlam delivered. Everybody brought their A games, or at least what their closest A game could be, and for the most part, we got an enjoyable show. Was it perfect?
No.
Hell no.
No, it was not. However,
but they did the best to give the show that we needed.
Yes, and I think that this was also a good sign of like, hey, we're still doing things, we're still making things work here, right? I know it was kind of Triple H saying, look, I know you're all scared about Vince, so am I, honestly, but like, we're still trying to make this work. Just bear with us here a little bit, and we're still turning the gears for the most part. All right, well, it's time to introduce man number 3 of this equation, and this man is a man who we all know very much so. He is the man who personifies the Lights Out match, the House of Horrors himself, JoshAgeddon. How are you feeling, sir?
Okay, so the original plan was we were just going to record us talking about the entire show. It was probably going to be a 3-hour-long slog like it always is. The moment I was going to press call, well, the moment I was going to press call, there was a bad storm that just strolled up like Jey Uso in the main event and decided to pull the plug on the power at my house.
Are you telling me that storm showed up in an Anoa'i brand black hoodie?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying, and pulled my ass right out.
Damn. And pulling out is an unmanly thing to do. So Yeah, you were.
Indeed.
Needless to say, you were very, very upset. So before we get into the title sequence here of this here establishment, why don't we get your overall thoughts on SummerSlam 2023?
I thought it was a pretty good show.
All right, that's great. Let's move on. It's like, wow.
I basically enjoyed everything except for the MMA, the stupid MMA match, which I skipped, which I've heard was really funny.
It was when you hear, yes, I found great comedy in that match, but you will get to hear my opinion on that with that's a match that I saved for Skylar as come into here, but. In any case, that was something else.
I'll just put it this way: Ronda Rousey's face makes my spleen hurt.
Well, you no longer have to worry about it.
And I thought that the first half of the women's triple threat match was boring, and so did the crowd. And Charlotte has gotten so bad. If I had $1 for every time Charlotte loudly called a spot in that triple threat match, I'd have like $1 million.
Well, we're going to get to all of this, and we're going to sink our teeth into all of the, well, at least half of these, you and I, and the other half I'm going to save for Skylar. But, you know, we were talking about earlier before about having this moment where the lights go out and you just feel like shooting things, especially things that are different. And speaking of shooting things that are different, Kid Rock opened the show.
Yeah, indeed he did.
Yes, he did.
Apparently he did not watch Money in the Bank.
Yes, clear. And I have to say this: full credit to WWE for playing both sides of that table and going, "Is your money good? Great. Is your money good? Great. We'll take all of that."
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're not here for the culture war. We're here for the money.
Yeah, we're here strictly to capitalize on both of you. And that's exactly what they did. And I give WWE full marks for their neutrality in that situation.
Indeed.
And Kid Rock, he's fine. He's fine. He's just a guy. It's like, I don't know. I don't have any thing good or bad to say about him. I always thought that Bob Benoit was a great pay-per-view theme music. For an opening of a TV show, that you could do a really good signature with Bob Benoit and everybody fighting, even though none of that is any words at all. But it just screams getting drunk and fighting people, I guess. And that's WWE kind of in a nutshell. But in any case, I guess we should move on to some matches, huh? Well, we open up this show, as well as our Monster Energy drinks, not whatever Logan Paul's pushing, because I heard that kills children. It is Logan...
You don't like asbestos in a can?
Allegedly. It is Logan Paul versus Ricochet, which is exactly what my stomach acid decided to do when I saw this match. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't that bad. But... I will say this was probably right to start with this match, especially because Logan Paul was about to fly down to Vegas to go see Jake Paul fight Nate Diaz later on. But even still, for what this match was, it was probably the best one to put on first. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was pretty good, although there were some things here and there, and especially, which we'll get into, the finish that annoyed me. But overall, I would give this a modest thumbs up. A good fun opener to the show.
Yeah, this is my thing. This match was all right. It was all right. I think that we have got such a high expectation from Logan Paul, but we sometimes forget that he is still green, and that if he does not have someone very good leading him, then the match will look like he doesn't have somebody very good leading him.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what we got from this Ricochet match. And here's the thing. First of all, we didn't really get to talk about it, but when Michael Cole said earlier, there are 4 main events on this 8-match program, I'm like, go fuck yourself.
I know. There's one.
Yeah, there's one main event, and it's the main event, and you know that, Cole, and I know that, Cole, and everybody else knows that, Cole. So don't give me this bullshit that match 2 is the fucking main event.
Yeah, match 2 is your main event. Bullshit.
But Logan Paul comes down, and then Ricochet comes down looking like Optimus Composite. And that's a deep cut for you folks.
I hate his theme song. It's just, hey, 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 hey. And I'm just like, shut up.
His NXT theme was so much better.
Yeah, it had a Japanese flair to it that was actually, you know, not, hey, hey.
It was a lot more dramatic. It was a, and Cole right out of the gate, I don't mean to go right to commentary, but right out of the gate, they don't do a Colonial tie-up, they do a Ricochet-style start. And what I wrote down was you can tell this is a Ricochet-style match, and then Logan Paul hits a back elbow, and Cole goes, "It's an LB!"
Yep, I remember that.
Thank you, Michael Coley. And but here's my problem. This match, normally you can have a level of disjointedness and you can attribute it to like the clunkiness of a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
This felt like it should have been coordinated and just wasn't.
Yeah. This match was kind of like an extended version of that spot that they tried at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. It's and here's the thing too. It more exposed that while Logan Paul is very good, he's still pretty darn green. I mean, the running power slam that he did to Ricochet, that was only a couple degrees away from being under-rotated and really hurting Ricochet, where his feet hit before his tailbone. Because the worst thing that can happen to a wrestler pain-wise is that, because then you get the boom, boom. And that's such a worse-feeling bump.
Although my favorite thing in this whole match was this one little thing that Logan Paul did, which harkened back to how he has boxing experience. It was towards the beginning-ish of the match when he was doing a bunch of body shots on Ricochet, and Ricochet tried to escape the corner, and Logan Paul grabbed him, threw his ass back into the corner, and continued with the body shots. I love that little part. That was my favorite part of the match.
Well, and they did allude to his, I think they called it boxing background, which he's only had a couple of celebrity boxing matches, but yeah. But then they do this weird, I don't understand the point of this one. Maybe you could explain it to me, being the slightly younger of the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
Logan Paul does this boot, and then he does this weird leg drop. And
Okay, I actually... The only reason why I like this is because of the name. the Hogan Paul leg drop.
Yeah.
That should not have made me laugh as hard as it did.
Well, and then Ricochet basically counters that by doing the kicking, and he does like the people's standing moonsault.
Yeah, and immediately I was like, boo.
And my question was, why? Okay, look, I understand everybody loves doing homages to their favorite wrestlers, so I know why they're doing this, but I don't know why they're doing this.
I know why Logan Paul did his, because, Hulk Hogan is pretty much hated now.
Arrogance, right, that's healing. And
yeah, so Logan was just trying to get some heat, and I thought, for me at least, it worked. I thought it was funny.
I thought Logan Paul did a lot better at getting heat than Ricochet did at getting the crowd behind him.
Yeah, Ricochet was really good at making the crowd go, oh, the Rock was cool.
Yeah. And
honestly, that spinebuster he did to set up, that was an ugly spinebuster.
Well, and kind of to that same point, Logan Paul did a big back body drop on him, and the landing of that was kind of like, oh.
Yeah, that was a bad landing, too.
Oh, man, and that was kind of where I was getting it. Like, he's a good heel, he's a natural at it, but when he's still green, he doesn't have all those instincts because he wrestles so infrequently. I mean, it's uncanny what he's able to do, but I felt like this whole match was more of a blight on Ricochet because everybody knows that Logan Paul's green. So who does it reflect on more? I mean, also, we're talking as two marks here, but like, who does it reflect poorly upon? Not Logan Paul, really, as much as it does Ricochet for not being able to do that. And then they do the Spanish fly / C4 / flip bottom / ball Burchell.
This sucked. Okay, The Spanish Fly needs to Spanish die. I hate this move. It looks fake when anyone does it. It is nothing but a coordinated, just carnival ride, roller coaster ride of a move. It's fake. I hate this move. I hate this move. And the idea of them trying to do it off the apron and land on their feet, that's such a stupid idea for a spot.
Well, and then they just started punching each other, and it just didn't...
Yeah.
It didn't... And what I wrote down was, what happened to the storytelling they were just having a couple seconds ago? Like,
but they wanted to do an acrobatic, athletic spot because athleticism.
Well, they did, but I thought that the buckshot clothesline outside, as risky as it was a lot better of a spot than the Spanish Fly stand and hockey fight.
Yeah.
It's
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, Sean does not know the difference between C4 and the Spanish Fly, and me and Skylar had so much fun educating him earlier.
Well, one is an explosive. That I know for a fact. One is the energy drink that sponsored the women's match.
Yeah.
And the other, I believe, is normally what pests mariachis. And at least you tell me, if you were in a mariachi somewhere in Spain and you have flies bothering you, please hit us up. Let us know if that is
Smack it with your guitar.
What a Spanish fly is. No, don't ruin your guitar trying to kill a fly. Like, oh my God. Unless you're rolling in paper or you're trying to get rid of that guitar, do not try to swat flies with your guitar. That is not a good idea.
Dude, you know Jeff Jarrett swats flies at his house with all of his guitars.
Yeah, but he has to bump Karen first so that the ref doesn't see it.
And then there has to be like 85 different run-ins of people like, no, use this, use the fly swatter. He's like, no, I want to use my guitar.
Well, he's still trying to make up for the one time he laid down for her, and anyway, and oh boy. But anyway, then I wrote down, Ricochet in this match is making me appreciate Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
And it really was that. Here's the thing, and you can go back and I have made this comment many times before. When that first thing in 2012 between those two came out, where they did all the hippity bippity and the hoppity boppity, and it got viral for them doing all that jumps, and I thought that was just dumb. And from that point on, I always looked at both Ricochet and Will Ospreay with kind of a slight, because that was not the kind of wrestling that I wanted to see. Ricochet turned me around with Prince Puma, which I now firmly believe was the result of him being booked and not him being allowed to be him. And Will Ospreay I just wrote off because I didn't really see a whole lot of everything. And I've actually been a little more impressed with him lately with the stuff that he's done with Kenny, of all people.
Yeah.
Than I was with Ricochet, who's been hanging around with Braun Strowman. And it's just, if that doesn't completely signify it. And then this match, I will say I did like the top rope neck breaker.
Yeah, I also like that as well. And they even referenced Hurricane on commentary.
Which was nice. And, at least this company sells high spots occasionally.
Yeah.
I love Logan Paul's cry selling. That just kills me. Just makes me laugh. But it's great heel overselling. It almost reminds me a little bit of like Mr. Perfect. It's going, but they did the best spot of the match, which was the moonsault counter into the tornado DDT.
That was pretty sick. And
I'm not a big mark for spots, but even I was like, all right, that was pretty dope. That was really cool. But this match went about as well as I expected it was gonna.
Yeah.
And then we get to this finish. What did you think?
Let me just say real quick, we were discussing this on our group chat, and all three of us had different problems with the finish of this match.
Yeah, it was cool because I let it off by saying, Skylar was like, I like the brass knucks finish. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't care for it. And then you two, in trying to figure out why I didn't like it, came up with 2 or 3 other good reasons why it wasn't good. And I'm like, well, okay.
Maybe this finish wasn't that great.
Maybe this wasn't as good as I had even given it credit for. But okay. Here's the thing.
My problem with it was, and it was a split-second thing, but I noticed it and I could not unsee it. When he goes to throw the punch with the brass knuckles, you can see at the corner of the screen the referee go, "Oh shit, I'm not supposed to see this. What's that over there?" And it makes the entire thing look fake.
Which
and
is unfortunate.
Yeah. It's like the referee forgot what the spot was going to be and then immediately was like a split second before the spot happened, he was like, "Oh shit."
Well, maybe they were just doing such a good job that he then became invested in the match's outcome.
Maybe Logan flung his arm so hard that some of the sweat came flying off of his arm and into the referee's eye.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that.
And Skyler's point was that why would that guy just show up out of nowhere with a pair of brass knucks? Like, he wasn't even involved with it. And, like, where did he come from? And Skyler also made the point that, like, Logan Paul, even though he can cheat to win, doesn't need to cheat to win, considering that he's faced, who he's faced with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and The Miz. And but even that match was good. I liked the match he had with The Miz better than I liked this match he had with Ricochet. As cool as some of the spots were, the storytelling was better in his match with The Miz. As weird as that is. And it's like, but in any case, Skyler brought up that he doesn't need to cheat to win. Fair, even though he's a heel, so yeah, I get it, but yeah. Here's my problem. They have spent the past couple of matches that Logan Paul's been in selling how dangerous this screw in the middle of his middle finger that he got in, that he had bolted, which they've shown the x-rays for, the punch that could have knocked out Roman Reigns, by the way, in Saudi Arabia, the one that they had said was threatening enough to unseat the champion, and yet he needs somebody to hand him brass knuckles to put on that same hand that he could already knock somebody out with? And it's just like, you couldn't have chosen a different means of healing, even if it's that entourage guy jumping the barricade, getting tackled by security, the ref's going, "You're not supposed to be here," and Logan Paul cheap shots Ricochet in the head with his hand and knocks him out. Cover 1, 2, 3. They used to do that with Luger where he wasn't allowed to use his forearm because he actually had a metal plate in it. If you're going to do that, consistency. It just felt like a hat on a hat here.
But Sean, he has a screw in his hand and brass knucks, so his fist is double hard.
Well, that's why I knew that this wasn't that good of a finish, because that was exactly the justification that they tried to scramble into the situation to try to justify it with Corey Graves and Michael Cole. And they were trying to be like, yeah, well, he already has a screw in his hand, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of my problem with this.
Even Michael Cole was like, that was a great match, but that ending sucked.
Yeah,
he said that on commentary.
He did. And to his credit, he wasn't talking in that sense.
Yeah, he's more like, "Oh, the heel cheated."
Yeah,
and I
he's
don't
trying to sell it. To his credit, he's just trying to sell it. But I did get a little laugh at that, because it was like, I get why you did it, right? I'm all for the heel cheating. That's not my problem with this.
Just make it make sense.
It's just the way he cheat. This is probably the only time in history I would ever be like, I don't know about the brass knucks here.
Yeah. This
is only because you just established that dude has a lethal right hand, and you're gonna add more to that. You already have a loaded hand. You're putting a Nordic glove on top of an already steel gauntleted gloves. This is not necessary. This is the people that use 2 condoms level of stupid. And all of that friction is just going to lead to some nasty stuff. But speaking of that, I'll talk about the big meat and the blonde hair with Skyler. So we'll catch up with you in just a few minutes. All right, Skyler, welcome back. We are here for match 2. It is Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar 3. And I won't lie to you, Sky, this match also worried me. But thankfully, I breathed a heavy sigh of relief when this one was all over.
I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, Cody Rhodes will get his ass kicked as hard as he can to make you like him.
Well, it scared me because knowing that Vince McMahon was back in the company, I thought, is there any chance that they actually beat Cody here with Brock Lesnar? And I was, to be honest with you, old school Vince McMahon WWE would not have been able to resist that. They wouldn't have. They would not have been able to resist that. So I'm thankful that the ending we got was the one we should have gotten, but moreover, this match was also very, very good. I really only had one major problem with it.
Which I think you and me both share. But yeah, I mean, everything was exceptional about this match.
Yeah. And I thought the package was very good, too. I thought it was funny, the song singing, I love it and I hate it at the same time, sums up WWE perfectly.
I mean, WWE is the emotional girlfriend that comes back into your life every once in a while, and you love her, but you know why you left her in the first place, but you can't get away from her.
That's right. Well, this is one of the reasons why you love her. Because this match was, I mean, the only, one of the gripes I had was Michael Cole going, oh, there's 4 main events out of 8 matches. Here comes one of our main events. It's match 2, Cole. It's not a main event. I'm sorry. No matter how much you try to say the words, it's not going to make it any more of a main event.
Can I just say that I hated Michael Cole all night?
He was not as good as Michael Cole of a year prior. I'll put it that way.
No, but like he was just pushing narratives and doing things all night that I hated. And did you see the report that came out that he's now going to be on Raw again?
Yeah, did you hear Corey call him the GOAT? And
the reason why is that they want him to be the voice of WWE. And by him, they mean the actual Endeavor company.
Well, when you think about it, though, Skyler, he's had the longest tenure at the booth. He's done everything that Vince McMahon has shoved up his ass for him to say. He really is what Vince McMahon wanted out of a commentator. JR had too much of a mind of his own. I mean, he's a tremendous, the best of commentator. The best commentator of all time is JR. However, when you look at the longevity in WWE and the faculties he's been able to maintain, good, bad, or indifferent, as much as he runs the town of Weenishire, he really, maybe in WWE's case, he just might be their best they've had. Not talent-wise, but for what Vince wanted, I don't know.
Okay, and let me counter that with saying long does not equal good.
Well, Dave Meltzer and Triple H would both like to disagree with you there, sir.
Well, I'm going to shove Dave Meltzer up Triple H's ass if that's what I need to do. But we're getting off topic here.
Because Triple H might pull your nose ring out if he hears you too closely. But in any event, this match started off hot, but it was worth starting off hot. So I can't really complain about it not getting a collar and elbow tie-up.
I mean, you got Cody Rhodes trying to shoot on Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, I mean, he started going in pretty, and he looked like he was laying it in hard. Then Cody hits a tope suicida. Did you notice that Cody did the ever so slightest Kenny Omega hop right before he started running to do that tope? I don't know whether he meant
They're
to do
still friends.
I don't know whether he meant to do it, but it was a teeny bit funny. I will have to say this, though. The best part about this match was that I never felt at any point that Brock was wrestling a Brock Lesnar match.
Well, I mean, it helps that it's 3 times as long as a normal Brock Lesnar match.
Well, yes, but it's also just different. You know, a lot of this was different. And I also credit Michael Hayes, who did the agenting of this match, who is definitely understanding what the assignment is as far as making his events long, as evidenced by the other match, which you and I will get to later on tonight. But this match, as far as the storytelling was going, and it just Brock not just being as formulaic, he was hitting suplexes, but he was diversifying it around, and he was moving himself around in places and in directions. It was just a really well thought out match. And then the constant countouts. You'd think that would get tiresome, but they somehow kept it interesting every time they did it.
Well, the thing is that Cody Rhodes kept it interesting. Just the whole, I will not give up.
Yeah.
I will not quit.
Yeah.
You will have to destroy me.
This was the ultimate test of can Cody make 7 count-out attempts interesting. And I wonder if this was a personal challenge for him. Can I be that much of a babyface to keep the people as invested as possible with this? But
it also kind of is like Brock Lesnar, like, I've already beaten this guy up. What do I need to do?
yeah, well, seriously. And there was this funny moment where Michael Cole was trying to say, if you're Cody, I would do this, but instead he goes, if you're Corey, and I was immediately like, well, I am Corey, so what do you want from me? But
I'm glad that Corey no-sold that.
yeah, me too, but I did get a little, I did catch it. But in any case, I didn't even have that much to write. I was just enthralled. But I did have to wonder, when it got to like the F5 onto the announce table, I started going, all right, how many of these is too many of these? And I don't think they ever crossed that border, but they got close.
They got very close because it was starting to be like, okay, now this is kind of just happening on one side of the arena.
Yeah,
Like,
but
I feel bad for the guys on the other side that couldn't see any of it.
yeah, but just as they said that, then Brock and Cody go to the other side, and Cody starts a little bit of a flurry, and then he starts to come back, and then is the part that you and I think, both very much disliked.
What would that be?
That would be the steel stairs to the face with no disqualification, with the ref seeing it in front of God and everybody.
Yeah, that part I'm like, okay, other people have done that and gotten disqualified.
What made Cody different? Yeah,
Because he's white? I don't know.
well, that hasn't stopped anyone else in WWE. Tons of white guys got disqualified for doing that. I don't think you can pin that on race. I don't think.
Watch me. Watch me.
All right, double down. I respect it. I respect it. Well,
But no, like, in all seriousness, I was like,
this is not the place I thought this was headed. All right, continue.
It's just like, okay, why does White need Cody Rhodes using a steel step after already bashing Brock Lesnar against the steel post get this much of a pass?
Well, and also, I mean, the steel post is one thing, but also you have the match at Night of Champions where Cody used the titanium that they really made sure to emphasize on that. Nobody gave a damn. So Cody's like, well, there was steel on my arm and you didn't care. What if there's steel that I'm holding with my arm? And I guess they still didn't care. So, no, I don't know. That was the one thing about this whole thing I didn't like.
Agreed, but like they made sure to get away from it as far as possible. That top row Cody cutter was exceptional.
Yes. And you know, it's funny because it's got to a point where I forgot the move that Cody used, but I had this flashback of like, man, this reminds me of, it might have been with the steel steps. It reminded me of Brock and Triple H. I forget what match, but I'm like, this reminds me of those two, which is ultimately ironic given Cody and Hunter's relationship. That
I mean, Cody Rhodes is basically the son that Triple H always wanted.
well, and maybe now it's a shame that they could never converge to have a sort of instead of Dominic Mysterio, Eddie, and Ray having a dusty Triple H and Cody Rhodes deal where Triple H and Cody would fight for custody of anyway. But in any case, but then Cody finally he hits the 3 crossroads and pins Brock.
Well, hold on.
Swear.
Before we get there, can we do the dueling Kimuras?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I don't. Maybe not you and I, but Cody and Brock. We could talk about what Cody and Brock did with them. Yes.
Because that Kimura that Brock Lesnar had Cody in, that was vicious.
Tight. And this one didn't last 4.5 minutes. Like the one.
I mean, it did last a minute and a half.
Yeah, but it wasn't the entire match like it was at Night of Champions. I mean, that was. Which also, and I think having that in, but not using that so much as a crutch of how the story was told, really helped make this match feel different than the other two they've had.
I think it definitely helped to differentiate because the thing is that they already had 2 matches, and all 3 matches were different. Like
different auras.
Tones, different auras.
Absolutely.
Like the first one was Cody was just lucky to survive. The second one was Cody being his ass kicked and like not being able to bear the pain. The third one was Cody doing everything he could to fight out from Brock Lesnar and then throwing back as much as he got. I mean, the Kimura that Cody put on Brock was also extremely tight.
Yes. Oh, yeah, no, it wasn't like John Cena and the Big Show trading STFs. No, this
Lord.
You remember that? Remember that?
And the thing is that John Cena's STF is normally extremely bad, but when he puts it on the Big Show, it gets even worse.
Oh my. Yeah. Well.
And also, just because it happened, Brock Lesnar purple face.
He did. And, you know, I do have to say.
He looks like a Smurf.
He a little bit. But here's the thing I like about this. When, you know, Brock didn't even have to go up and shake Cody's hand. That wasn't even part of the whole deal. But he did anyway. And I do wish that Kevin Dunn, after doing this for 40 years, would recognize when 2 guys are squaring off in an intense moment to shut the damn music off.
But he didn't know it was going to happen.
You've been doing it for 40 damn years. You can see 2 guys looking at each other, kind of pissed, kind of wary, and read how many times in 40 years have they done that, and then and done that handshake.
But it wasn't the plan.
Billions of years. Fuck the plan. Use your goddamn brain, Kevin Dunn. Like, I don't know. That bothered me, man.
I agree. It's like you could have made what was already going to be a good moment into an epic moment just by letting it register and not having the music play.
Yeah, building up the tension. You know, is Brock going to shake his hand or is Brock going to F5 him into the ring post and concuss him? You know, and none of that happened. And none of that happened because instead you knew because Cody's music was playing that it was probably just going to end in a handshake. You know, and then, well, what happened if he did F5 him? Then what? Then Kevin Dunn would look like a gigantic knob.
I mean, Kevin Dunn already is a knob, so what do you expect?
I know, but he got his teeth fixed because he now has.
I mean, that doesn't make it any better.
No, it doesn't. You'd think with his teeth fixed, now that his brain is back working and functioning, you know, without the constant teeth going back up into the brain. That's a real thing with beavers, by the way. That's why they know on wood.
Either that or the damage has already been done to the brain.
Yeah, well, that's very much possible because even whatever cells he might have had at the beginning, he's been working under Vince for a very long time. So in any case, this was great. This was a great match, and it really helped. You know, that gave me a huge sigh of relief. I'm like, okay, we might have some good decisions on this show if this is how we're going to really set this pace.
Although now it leaves the question of what does Cody do next, because it's not quite time for him to go back for the world title. I have a suggestion.
What's that?
Logan Paul.
Cody and Logan Paul could be definitely they could work if they.
That could be a Survivor Series main event match.
They could. They definitely could. So long as they don't do company softball game again and do Raw versus SmackDown, I do not mind. And the question is Survivor Series going to be War Games again? Or are we just going to do regular tag matches? Or, you know, it's who knows what Survivor Series is going to bring and who knows what Cody's doing next. But with that seemingly full-throated endorsement from Brock Lesnar, that was what Cody needed to gain from this feud.
Yep, he needed to shake hands with Brock Lesnar's falling apart trunks.
Yep, and yes, and for those of you who saw the little Lesnar's, good on you. I didn't look for him. But maybe the man who's going to talk about this Battle Royal next did, but let's find out once we get there. Well, it's Battle Royal time, and this is going to be, you know, I would not have expected to say that a Battle Royal on a pay-per-view meant to get everyone on the card, A, would have meaning, B, would have a package before it, and C, would have the right winner involved. But here we are, JoshAgeddon.
And D, be actually a decent match.
Yeah, I ended up having fun watching this one. When was the last Battle Royal done for all of those reasons that you can remember was fun like this?
Probably the first Andre Battle Royal back at WrestleMania 30.
Yeah, that was a good one. Who was won by, I forget who. Was that Cesaro?
Cesaro.
Right.
Yeah, Cesaro.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully LA Knight fares better after this Battle Royal than Cesaro did.
Well, he's not getting an Andre trophy for it, so that probably helps.
He's getting Slim Jims.
But this is, as I call it, like, welcome to the LA Knight and everybody else Battle Royal.
Yeah, basically.
and it showed because two-thirds...
This was the LA Knight is popular and Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus are not match.
Yeah, this was the 9/10 of the Battle Royal is in the ring. Let's do specifically just LA Knight, AJ Styles, and Omos's entrance. So you know who we actually feel are worth a damn in this match.
Yeah, basically.
Even Sheamus didn't even get one. He came in a monster truck that wasn't even personalized for Sheamus, and he's not even given an entrance. What happened? You know, I do feel...
he went on some podcast complaining about his position in the company.
Well, I do kind of feel for Sheamus, though, because when you think about it, he does have a point. You know, after what happened with Clash, like, yeah. I don't blame him for being a little annoyed that he's not even really in the running for anything of major import.
Well, the reason why is because he's in a dead stable that's not going to go anywhere.
Well, yeah. That's true.
Maybe
Michael Cole's screaming,
if he didn't wrestle with a guy if he wasn't with a guy whose god-awful ring name is going to have just cast a depressingly low ceiling on any of his prospect or career, and a guy who should not have a career.
Yes, Roughhouseman.
Yeah.
As I now call him. Not fuck Rich Holland, it's Roughhouseman. Because that's all he does is roughhouse people.
Although one thing I will say I'm glad about Sheamus not getting an entrance, we didn't have to hear Michael Cole say Fight Night. That was
yeah,
nice.
Well, maybe that was the reason. But originally I thought what they might be teasing here is AJ Styles and LA Knight because they were the only two that got any entrances. So it's like, well, I'm maybe this is where they're going with this. But then I said, oh no, Moss. Because here he came and everybody's heart went straight to their testicles.
Basically.
Because everybody's immediately got very worried that Omos was going to walk out of this. Yeah, no Moss. No Moss, Omos.
No Moss.
Yes. But it was just... And the next thing I wrote down was Obi-Wan Kenobi has killed many Omos types. And so maybe that means he won't win this Battle Royal. And
I felt so bad but laughed so hard when like the second person he threw out was JD McDonough. I was like, oh yeah, he's a person that exists.
There were a lot of people that I was like, oh yeah. Grayson Waller. Oh yeah. So he's a guy. That was the guy that fake did a bunch of scripted verbiage in front of John Cena.
Yeah.
But then recently you had a little bit of a gripe with the LWO.
Yep.
Well, Santos Escobar, who had some weird, not NWO shirt that didn't even say LWO on it. So I didn't know what the hell was going on. He gets thrown over the top. He's fighting with somebody, and then Karrion Kross is literally a foot to the right of Escobar, and Escobar still gets eliminated.
Yep.
Did you see? I'm like, oh, come on, Beaker. Like, you can't do that. And, yeah, what a shame. You know, and even if...
Dude... I swear to God, if this dude becomes the next United States champion, I'm going to be so angry.
Who, Karrion Kross or Santos Escobar?
Santos Escafart. That's who. Yeah. I fucking hate it. If you haven't listened to my rant on Santos, I very much encourage you to listen to it. The dude sucks. Does not belong in a wrestling ring.
Well, Karrion Kross, his hair does not belong in a wrestling ring.
Even his eyes are starting to look like Beaker now.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. And you know what's funny is I don't know whether you've ever seen the video. Karrion Kross does a very good Jesse Ventura impression.
I have seen that video.
He's like, I was doing tricep extensions in the Gulf of Tonkin, Chris. It was just so maybe
his actual personality far eclipses the personality that he's forced to play on screen.
I was just about to say, well, maybe you get Karrion Kross to come out there with Scarlett Bordeaux, and he literally just does Jesse Ventura. And he's like, I have the finest women in Scarlett Bordeaux, fresh from Minnesota. I will kick your ass from here to the Baja now. Anyway, I'm just saying, because what he's doing right now ain't working.
Nope, not
That's
at all.
all I'm saying.
His finishing move, his new finisher, it's so goofy. Like a pump handle slam into a power slam F5. Your finishing move doesn't need to be 3 different moves.
Yeah, that's a very video game style move.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did it. But speaking of video games and people who are better than them, there was a shining star who was not selling real estate in this match. Can you tell me who that man was?
Wait. Was Primo in this match?
No. I'm not talking about them. I meant shining star. I said they're not selling real estate, but there was somebody whose star was shown more in this match than they have gotten in very recent memory of actual value, who I felt looked better out of this match than they have with his association with the people he's with in the past several years.
Not sure who you're talking about.
That would be Chad Gable.
Okay, I was about to say Chad Gable, and you know what? You're right.
Chad Gable was the MVP of this matchup. The Waluigi or Pennywise, if you will.
I despise that they see nothing in him more than comedy.
Well, I don't know about that, though. Because think about how early Otis got eliminated and how long Gable lasted.
That is true, and they did give him a pretty good match against Gunthar on this past episode of Raw.
Somebody in there seems like they are trying to do something with this dude.
And honestly, he would be the new Kurt Angle that the fans would accept because it's not going to be Gable Stevenson.
No, it will not.
Have you seen his match with Baron Corbin?
Yes, I did.
God.
My
that
word.
Was sad. How do you get the crowd to love Baron Corbin so much?
By sucking like Baron Corbin did when he started.
Yeah, I know. That was just sad.
Yeah. But what wasn't sad and what was great was that slow poison Rana elimination that Gable did.
Yes,
it was. I was like, that was, and that's what I mean. They gave him a lot of attention in this match.
He almost German suplexed, not Bronson Reed, big Bronson Reed. Because did you know that Bronson Reed is big?
Bronson Reed is getting bigger every time I see him. Is somebody telling him to lay off the empanadas now?
But seriously, Chad Gable almost Germaned him. The crowd was edging. They were about to ejaculate, but then he got
oh my God.
They got countered, and the crowd was like, "Oh, blue balls! No!"
I do not want to know how much motor oil. I do not want to know how much motor oil is used as lube in Detroit for said edging, but
it was downright sickening.
Oh, all they could afford, because they're at Ford Field, and then Omos got eliminated, and that was the second huge sigh of relief on the night after Cody beat Brock clean. And that scared me. But then right after that, I wrote down, they're trying to give Gable something.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate that. And then they get to the final 3.
Mm-hmm.
Which were a good final 3 of Sheamus, AJ, and LA Knight. And this is where the crowd really got into LA Knight, other than any time that he had any sort of light on him at all.
Yeah. One real quick, we just mentioned Omos. One thing that they did that I thought was really clever, they had the entire ring ganging up on Omos, except for LA Knight, and LA Knight went over and gave that one last little push to finally eliminate Omos.
Yes,
I love
that was a nice little touch. That was definitely a nice touch. But then we really get into all this. I loved the belly-to-belly that we got.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, it started flowing, and then LA Knight got that last little piece again, got the victory, beat Sheamus. And I'm sure they're going to do some LA Knight and Sheamus matches down the road. I have to imagine so. But
they did one on the last episode of SmackDown.
Yeah, and I assume they're going to continue to do so. And hopefully now, or they're going to move him right past Sheamus and into something of value, at least theoretically. But this at least shows that they're gonna.
Yeah.
You know, at least it seems so.
So my prediction for this match was it's going to come down to, it's going to look like LA Knight wins, but then Australian Miz comes in and throws him out.
Yeah, you know, Waller could have easily, if this were a Vince McMahon booked show, that's how it would have ended.
That is exactly how it would have ended.
Or Theory would have won it.
Yeah.
For no reason, even though he's ice cold right now.
Dude, even though Austin Theory desperately needs to lose the U.S. title, don't give it to Santos. I would rather Liv Morgan win the U.S. title off of Austin Theory at this point.
Well, let me also mention something as well here in this little bit, because everybody's talking about predicting what wrestlers are fads. Austin Theory was a fad.
Not wrong.
Austin Theory was as quick as the selfies he was taking. And
yeah, although he wasn't a fad because of the audience. He was the office's fad.
He was a fad because John Cena basically said everything, exposed his ass on a level that you almost feel like he shouldn't have. But
yeah,
I almost feel like maybe that was the sentiment that was not coming from John, but coming from the office. You know, I've been the one designated to come out here and tell you the truth. And now the people are going to realize why, after Vince left, you have not gotten the push that everybody thought you were gonna. And John Cena laying that out for people. This is why it's like this.
John Cena win on Austin Theory.
Well, because they weren't going to completely just bury him into the ground, but they still wanted to see if they could make Austin Theory work, but it just turned out that John Cena was so correct that they have not been able to do a damn thing with Austin Theory since. And also, a lot of other people have made themselves more valuable in that time.
Mm-hmm.
For different reasons.
Honestly, Grayson Waller, we just mentioned him, he would be a better U.S. champion right now, because at least he has, as long as he's not like on a microphone in the middle of the UK with John Cena in the ring. Funny, we were just talking about John Cena as well. And I feel like he's better in ring than Austin Theory as well.
Yeah.
And he's newer.
Yeah, I mean, it's fresher, but I mean, you kind of feel like Grayson Waller's going to end up being a fad too.
I hope not. I kind of like that dude.
Well, we'll see. But it's nice to see a meaningless battle royal made into something by the right outcome.
Mm-hmm. I'm stunned that they actually had LA Knight win the battle royal.
Me too. But we got more to come, and it was we were about to hit a big old cliff. All right. Here we go. This is a match that happened, and I knew that this was going to be a train wreck, but boy, did I not realize that train was not only going to wreck, it was going to take out the whole rest of the station. It is Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler in an MMA match, and we're going to get into the normally I'd say good, bad, and the ugly, but I'm going to beg you, Skylar, to tell me what was good about this situation.
That it was short.
Kinda. It was kinda.
I mean, here's the thing. We got 3 good matches up to this point. Logan Paul versus Ricochet, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, and the Battle Royal.
Yes.
This was the match that killed the crowd. And, I mean, Gunthar and Drew McIntyre eventually got the crowd back on, and so did Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. And I think also because the first 3 matches were, again, so good that, like,
yeah,
it kind of drained the crowd. But this match was death.
I'm laughing because this was like almost like it's so bad it's turning into like cult classic funny good because it's of how bad this was. First of all, somebody in WWE did not learn the lesson from the Brawl for All, which is that people who are not wrestling fans do not give a fuck about I don't want to say real combat sports, but combat sports. They love wrestling. And they did not want to see these two women sit there and work an MMA match. And that was very, very evident within the first 30 seconds of the bell ringing. Everyone was like, all right, well, this is horrible. I mean, Detroit turned on it instantly.
I mean, they went to the bathroom is what they did.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, they just gone crazy for LA Knight winning the Battle Royal, so, like, you can't even blame them. But, like, Ronda comes down. By the way, this is one of the times were like, well, if you have Premium plus Peacock, you can watch the package, and otherwise you got commercials. And I was like, this is one of the few times I really don't mind not seeing the package. Like, show me the cricket ad for the 48th time. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah. I don't know. This was just them trying to work a UFC type fight in a WWE ring doesn't work.
No. Well, I do love angry-faced Ronda. Ronda came down there like she was pissed and ready to fight.
Yeah, with her knockoff Road Warriors makeup.
Yeah, and I didn't even... Well, I thought that was genius. Because think about it, Sky. You can't get a black eye if you black your own eyes first. Modern problems require modern solutions. You can't... Nobody's going to see your shiner if you completely blackened your eye before your opponent is able to. So... Yeah,
whatever. Look, I don't like Shayna Baszler's makeup either, looking like a knockoff Goldust makeup.
She did the same thing! She had the same makeup, basically.
Well, no, Ronda had the red and the black. Shayna had the black and the gold.
Well, yeah, but, like, the eyeliner-wise, they basically both turned their eyes into double shiners. And...
I mean, yeah, that is true.
But then the next question I had was, so did anybody explain what these MMA rules were? And the answer was no, because they get into the ring and they have an unmiked referee say it into the camera mic as they're in the ring. You would have thought that maybe they could have, made a graphic and just put it up so that everybody knew what was going down, or explained that prior to it being, like, right in the middle there. And it's like, bring the people up to date. Because it's just, I don't know. A minute and a half into this, as all you can hear are boring from literally everybody. From everybody. And they're doing light jabs, and they're doing, like, a couple Ranas, but not, like, real Ranas. They're, like, kind of somewhat tossing each other around. And nobody's really pandering to the crowd. And I don't know. Did they have that little faith that they could wrestle?
Could they not do a cage match?
Well, yeah, what about the fight pit? Put them in the damn fight pit that you had Riddle and Rollins in.
That would have required a more expansive setup, and clearly Ronda Rousey does not get that kind of setup because she's not a star.
Well, and also she's leaving, nor does she give a single shit, as that was very evidenced in this matchup. Very evident.
Yeah, again, none of her stuff looks good. She doesn't... Well, listen, I know that Logan Paul has spoiled us. I know that Pat McAfee has spoiled us.
Yeah.
But the bar for celebrity/sports athlete come-overs has really shown that Ronda Rousey is not good at what she does. Also, Gable Steveson needs a lot of work and is not going to be in WWE for a long time.
Yeah. Well, this was the funniest part to me about this was as people were just straight up dead in the water, and they're about 5-6 minutes into this fiasco, and all of a sudden Shayna starts getting mad and starts like to push Ronda like they were threatening to break out into wrestling after this MMA match done. Like the MMA fight wasn't working and they're fighting, so they're threatening to go into like actual wrestling, which actually like got a few heads to turn up, and I'm like, who thought of this matchup? Who thought to frame it like this? And then they look at each other and they're all like somewhat mad, and then they air punch Rock'em Sock'em robots at each other. None of the punches are landing.
I want to know right now, did Shane McMahon train either of these girls?
And the thought I had of this is like, wait a minute, I might have answered that question before about did they have that little faith that they could wrestle. Maybe they were onto something. Maybe this was best case scenario for this, and this was just the way to get Ronda out of there. Oh, god damn. It was just, it's like, I knew it was going to be bad, but this was a 5-finger stinker, man. This was like the biggest egg you could have laid in Detroit. Was this. And
somehow they are lucky they didn't turn off the crowd for the rest of the show.
And well, they sure tried, and then mercifully, Shayna Baszler, after the whole concept of the story, as far as I came to understand, was that nobody's made Ronda tap out. Shayna's going to be the first to do that, but instead Shayna just chokes her out and Ronda doesn't tap. So what the fuck was the point? And, oh man, this gave me a tickle, man. I don't know why this made me laugh so hard, but this was just, again, maybe because, like you said, Sky, because there was just so much good up to this point, that to see this just take that cliff and just fall straight off it and land square at the bottom. Oh man, this was one of the all-time so bad it might just be good kind of matches. Oh man.
It's just because it's the ridiculous of pro wrestling trying to be realistic. We're a real sports company. We do MMA shit. Look at us.
And then the second they do that, they're like, no, go back to the predetermined stuff that we all know and love, and don't bullshit us with we're doing real stuff. And by the way, it also doesn't help the image of MMA to have a worked MMA match on WWE programming. That doesn't help.
I mean, we get enough of those on the UFC, so.
Yeah, well, I know, but like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I know they're bought by the same company now, but if you're trying to maintain that illusion that they are holistically separate entities, and the last thing I'd want to do if I was UFC, and the last thing I'd want to see, is WWE doing a worked MMA style fight with two former MMA fighters. And wasn't this supposed to be Ronda's exit so she could train for a comeback to UFC? And she's choked out in an abysmal match by Shayna Baszler. This was great.
Somebody had a good time because I didn't.
I did, because you know what? It was just so outrageously bad. It made me laugh so hard. And oh man. You know, sometimes.
And also, again, it's because it's Ronda Rousey and the woman that you have hated the most in wrestling for the last, I don't know how long.
It is a catharsis on that basis, yes. I won't lie to you on that. But I will use a quote from Brian Last when he was talking about the AEW women's division of 2019-2020. And I'm going to use it here because it really does apply sometimes in WWE. When it comes to the women's division, it never lets you down, but it always lets you down.
Oh boy, howdy.
And boy, this was one of those times. But all right.
I just wish that Trish Stratus and Becky didn't get bumped off for this. Listen, can we vamp for a second?
Please.
Ronda Rousey's first run was one of the all-time best runs for someone who was new to the sport and was green and didn't know what they were doing. They had one of the best debut matches of all time. I mean, it helped that they had Kurt Angle and Triple H in there and Stephanie, who was a heat magnet. But she had one of the best debuts of all time.
That was a great match.
She had a good run. She helped to main event WrestleMania with women the first time it ever happened. Whether it was deserved is another question altogether, but that's a totally different question. She broke boundaries in her first run. Her second run has been nothing but shit ever since she came back to the Rumble in 2022 and helped make one of the worst women's Rumbles of all time.
Well, there aren't that many to frame that reference on, but your point stands. It also doesn't help that in no way in this time that she's come back to now have I felt like she's cared about anything she's done. She has not. Phoning this whole thing in.
Everything that she's done has been horrible and terrible. I wish Ronda Rousey will go the fuck away, and maybe she finally will. Give time to actual talented women, please.
Like Shayna, maybe you could start rehabbing her image like I was trying to. That would be a good plus. It'd be nice to have Shayna feel like something again. But this match was... Who did this help? That was the last thing I wrote down. I'm like, who is this helping? Nobody.
It was supposed to help Shayna, but if anything, it made her worse for being involved in it.
Yeah, this was iconically bad, and maybe this is why you don't do these kinds of matches. You know, this is for something. This is a note for Tony Khan. Pay attention to this. When it comes to dream matches, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And this is a perfect example.
But Tony Khan is going to pay money to do everything that you shouldn't do, but will do anything.
That's right. But we're not here to talk about Tony Khan. We still have another half a show to go. All right, Sky. Well, I can tell that you want some better wrestling. Would that be a fair assumption?
Please.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to Drew McIntyre versus Gunthar for the Intercontinental Championship. What did you think about this match?
I mean, Gunthar is just... Please, bear Joshua's children, and then bear mine.
But you don't want Gunther's sloppy seconds. Have them to yourself first. Have JoshAgeddon have them.
No. I'm patient. I am willing to wait my turn to be inseminated by Gunther.
But you don't want to taste JoshAgeddon's fluids all over Gunther. Come on, man.
Who says we're going to get Joshua's fluids?
You think he's going to shower? You think Gunther's a kind of... Well, actually, he probably does look like he's showering. He does look like he's pretty well kept. Why are we talking about this?
Yeah, now this was legit.
How did we get here? It's not even a minute into talking about this match. And meanwhile, as Drew makes me his daddy, while you guys don't deal with Gunthar.
I mean, to be fair, I would take both of them at the same time.
Yes, this is for all of you out there who are wondering what our opinions of these wrestlers are. You have now heard it. Big, beefy men slapping meat.
Which is exactly what I wanted after watching the shit show that was an MMA match. Let's get back to some real wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, this was the perfect match to follow that, because if anyone's going to get the crowd back into this show, it's going to be Gunthar. But I'll have to say, they had to work for it.
Oh, they definitely had to work for it. They had to get the crowd energized, which they were not for the first half of this match. But they got there.
They did, but it was not easy to do. And maybe it's because the crowd was so dead from what they saw before. But the first half of this match, it took a minute for me to really get into it. But it was good, but something just wasn't clicking. And I think it might have been just that the crowd was so flat.
Yeah, again, like I said, they had to also get the crowd back in. They also had to do something that was very difficult, and that's the fact that everybody in their mind knew that Gunthar wasn't going to lose.
That'll be a theme tonight, but we'll get to that later.
But can we skip back and go back to the entrance first?
Yes, please.
So Drew McIntyre does his entrance, the flashy sword, whatever. Then we get to Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci. Did you notice any difference between them now and them when they were in the Battle Royal?
Well, they were clothed. Well, that helped.
But what about their clothes?
Were they... What are you pointing out specifically? I'm not seeing where you're going here.
Their trunks were black in the Battle Royal, and in the 30 minutes between that, they changed to maroon so they could color coordinate with Gunther's.
No, I saw the red tracksuits, but I didn't know.
No, but the trunks were maroon too.
They actually changed
their gear.
That's funny. Well,
they changed red gear just so they could wear the same thing Gunthar was wearing.
You know what? That's called dedication to the guy who's bringing you the real bacon. When you think about it, it's like, yeah, go change into other gear so you can. And the funny thing is, they're only there for like a minute and a half, and then they walk to the back anyway. So that is pretty funny. Now that you point that out, But I will say you were saying though about like everybody knew that Gunther was walking out of here. A little part of me wasn't sure. A little part of me thought, is it possible they would take this off with Drew? I mean, it's the first one-on-one match they've had. You know, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure, which is nice. Kind of having that uncertainty heading into a match.
Here's the thing. About 10 years ago, there was a certain man by the name of Phil who became the longest-running WWE champion in modern history, at least in the 21st century.
Right.
And ever since then, WWE has been obsessed with record chasing and record breaking because they think that long title reigns are good title reigns and will make money. They did this with the New Day when they were the longest tag team champions. They did that with the Usos when they were the longest tag team champions. They're doing it right now with Roman, which we'll get to in a second.
Yes, we will.
But WWE cannot help to do these record-breaking type of things because they want to rewrite their history books and whitewash their history again, so that way they can promote modern stars as being better than the past stars. I wonder why that is.
Well, I mean, part of it is that they don't want... I mean, they've got the whole library back there, and they've probably heard a lot before of their time. They've heard a lot that the older stars are better than the newer stars. You know, at least somebody like Gunther is deserving to be held in the same regard. You know?
Right, and that's the thing, is that I'm fine with it in this case because Gunther legitimately earns it. I mean, here's the thing. Gunther, at least, is a throwback to that old style of wrestling that would have worked back in the 80s, 90s, 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Gunther...
You plug him into any territory, and he's figured in somewhere, without a doubt. If not running a promotion or getting some chunk of a territory of his own, you know, like a Brody or a Sheik, you know, where he's actually able to, you know, not only doing stuff on his own, he would find success in any generation of wrestling.
And any location. It could have been America, it could have been Canada, it could have been Europe, it could have been Japan. He would have been the focal point of any company that had the money to acquire him.
Yes. And I will say this, too. At that same point, this style, Drew McIntyre, would also fit into that territory days. Maybe not as long. You know, he might have to do shorter periods in, you know, of runs in multiple territories, but he would work equally as well with the size and the talking ability and just the way that he works. And the way, as we saw during the pandemic days, you know, Drew would be equally as capable of doing that, which is why a match like this is so appealing to our sensibilities, I think.
Right. But again, and I will counter this, as good as this match was, it still does not hold up to Clash. I mean, nothing does.
It was a different style of match. This was spottier. You know, there was a lot more just slapping and punching and kicking in the Sheamus versus Gunther match, which is really what set it apart from everything else because it didn't look or feel like anything else. This had a little bit more WWE in it. I don't know how else to put it. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but I feel like there was a part in the middle where it felt like, and you and I talked about it that night, that it felt a little rushed, and as a result, it felt kind of spot heavy, which is not something I expect from Gunther's matches, and I was almost starting to go, oh man, this is one that I'm starting to not like as much, and then they got me and Detroit right back into it.
I think part of the issue was that in the middle of this match, what ended up starting to happen was that they started to not sell moves as long. Because what made Sheamus and Gunther work is that they took time to register each and every strike and punch and kick and whatever. They started to go really quickly. I don't know if they were told, like, hey, you gotta speed up, I mean, the first, 3 matches did take up a considerable amount of time.
True.
But it's one of those things where they were starting to be like, okay, we gotta start going quicker. And the rush stuff is what makes matches worse because then the moves don't look quite as crisp.
Yep. Well, and it wasn't even that on this occasion. I really didn't think anything that they did looked necessarily like bad. It was just that it was.
I don't like Drew's Future Shock DDT is not looking good.
Well, he didn't really hit it. The first time he didn't really hit it, but I don't know. But it was good, and it was, again, I didn't hate it. It was just something wasn't clicking, and I think it was probably a combination of all the things we just described. But I will say, though, when they started doing the back and forth chops that led to the Claymore, that woke people up, and I was right back into it.
Right, because then we were getting into the, is Drew going to win? Is Drew going to win?
Yeah, and honestly, they built it up to a point, and props to both of them. They built it up to a point where the fans, after what had gone down the match before, and especially with American crowds, when a crowd dies in America, you really have to work hard to reel them back in. It's not as difficult in places like Puerto Rico and London and all those places where they're excited to just have the show. In America, we're so, like, I don't know how to put it. We're just so complacent.
Overexposed.
Yeah. And so it takes a lot to reel a crowd back in, and they did it. It's very successfully. So much so, and one of the things I didn't mention at the beginning, what I liked about this match, is that this is one of the few times that you felt, and Gunther sold, like he was nervous about wrestling Drew a little bit. That's what I thought, like, when they did the backdrop onto the steel steps. I was like, that kind of showed that Gunther's a little bit intimidated by Drew. To be using tactics, because normally Gunther is a sticking to inside the ring kind of fighter. And he'll get everything he needs to do done in there. That's the way that he is. So going to the outside, I did like that. But then it kind of got spotty in the middle. But then this finish.
I mean, this finish, Gunther goes crazy.
And this is kind of to the point I was making just a second ago. He's that worried after landing the splash the first time and not getting it. He lands the splash, picks him up. Clothesline that beat Sheamus, picks him up. Power bomb. 1, 2, 3. It was like, I'm going to use everything that I've used to beat everybody else on you all at once because you will not go down. And that...
Although, I bet you anything, if Vince was fully in charge, Drew would have kicked out of it.
It's possible. It is possible. But it was the exact finish. And again, it showed that Gunther respected Drew enough to be a little bit more worried about him than maybe some of the other people... Some of the people around. And I did notice that, and Gunther, he's just so good at expressing all of that. With his facial expressions and the way he moves in the ring, it's just, he's so goddamn good.
He's a perfect professional wrestler right now.
He is so good. He may be the best all-around worker in the world right now at doing exactly what that dude needs to do at any given moment. It's perfect. It is perfect.
And I don't want to hear anybody say, AEW has the better singles stars. Okay, come on. Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, Logan Paul blow anything out of AEW's water.
I mean, Punk's been putting good matches in. Joe, I know you're not really big on Joe anymore, but he's been doing solid work. FTR have been killing it. But beyond those guys... I wouldn't give anybody else much more than the occasional nod. You know, Christian occasionally.
I want to like fun. MJF more, but he's ruining himself.
MJF has joined the Friends. That's the way that at least that's the way it feels for me. I know the crowd, and they're popping a number for him, so they are getting viewership from what they're doing with him and Adam Cole. But it hasn't been for me. Let me put it that way. And. There was a time MJF was the hottest thing in wrestling, but nobody right now is on Gunther's level. No question about it.
And of course, now he's only about 30 days away from surpassing the Honky Tonk Man. The question doesn't become if he breaks the record. The question becomes how long does he hold the belt?
Well, no disrespect to Wayne Ferris, because I do respect the Honky Tonk Man for doing jack all of nothing and still being able to hold that belt for 435 days. Like, he probably made the most money doing the least effort of anyone in the world in wrestling in the WWF. And that is something that takes skill to get away with not doing anything at all for so long. So,
well, here's the thing, though. I countered you with Vince Russo.
Well, Vince Russo basically just wanted to fire him. Honky Tonk Man. He didn't see anything in Honky Tonk Man. That's in one of his notes when he was trying to figure out what was going on in WWE. But Vince Russo, Skylar, we should, I don't know if it's going to be next week, but maybe next week, we should kind of talk. If you haven't seen some of these Dark Side of the Rings, I'd love to kind of just talk about our opinions on some of these deals that have gone on, particularly this Bash at the Beach 2001. Because
we could do a whole season review of the last of Dark Side of the Ring.
Of season 4, well, especially because this week, and we haven't watched it at the time of recording because it hasn't aired yet, this week is the season finale, and it's Marty Jannetty. I am so curious. I am so curious. That is going to be fun to watch. But in any case, speaking of fun to watch, this was really good as well. And my last notes were for this match was I enjoyed it. They had me. They almost lost me. They made me foolish for ever doubting.
Perfect match. Is this the match of the night?
It's one of them. But that's a good thing about this show. You got a few to choose from. And you could pick from probably 3 or 4 matches based on the sensibilities and go, okay, I see it. I can understand that. And that's how you know you've got yourself a good show.
Right, especially with the next match that's coming up.
That's right. All right. Now, I didn't want to hurt Skylar's feelings, but I saved my favorite match of the night for you, sir. Because I suspect that this was also your favorite match of the night, or one of. I didn't think I was going to say
Probably my
this.
second favorite match of the night.
I did not think I was going to say this. If you had looked at me dead in the eye and said, this match was going to be your favorite match on the night, I would have said that's a lie. That's a lie. There's no way. There's no way. I loved this match. It is Seth Rollins and Finn Balor.
Sean, am I hearing this correctly?
You are, for the World Heavyweight Championship, and I got to admit to you, JoshAgeddon, as much as you have heard me take a gigantic steaming dump all over Finn Balor and his career, and not even in the fun way. And
all right.
And as much as you have heard me dump on him and say I don't believe him, I don't believe any of that, and all of that stuff, you've heard me say it all.
Mm-hmm.
This match is the best Finn Balor match I've watched, and it is the best of the Finn and Rollins matches that they've had over the course of their careers.
Basically, every issue that we had, or that specifically you had with their match at Money in the Bank, this match basically answered all of it.
It did a lot. It's like they listened to the podcast and were like, all right,
yeah,
you want a better match? All right, here you go. This was really, honestly, Balor stepped up his game here tremendously as far as knowing when to take his time and get the audience involved in his healing, while not necessarily doing monstrous amounts of cheating, but still being very aggressive in the way that he was attacking Seth, and the way that the whole thing with the shoulder, and they did it. And the funniest thing was, the first thing I wrote down was, what could they possibly do differently? Everything.
Well,
they did the whole match differently.
And honestly, when the match was like about to start and Seth was standing in the middle of the ring listening to the crowd sing his stupid song, and Finn was and it cuts to Finn just watching him. I was like, no, don't do this again. Don't do this again. But then
he did it.
Seth takes it just a smidge too far. And I do love that Seth came out wearing the same vest that he wore at SummerSlam 2016 when he hurt Finn Balor.
Yes.
He threw it at Finn Balor's face, and that was just a bridge too far. And then Finn did exactly what you wanted him to do at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I wish he would have gotten there a little bit faster. Won't lie to you there, but he got there. So I'm like, all right, fine. He got there.
And you can also just say that him throwing the shirt in his face was just the last straw.
Yeah.
Like he was already seething.
Yeah, the one thing I did think it was funny that Samantha Irvin was not allowed into the ring tonight. I don't know why. Maybe that was because she was all hot and bothered because of the Logan Paul deal.
I wish she wasn't. I wish that she wasn't allowed into the building, but that's a different.
That's something else. But one thing I do want to mention is that when Finn Balor came to the ring and he had the word 7 on his shoulder, but he had the line through it, so it looked like it said Cyan. I'm like, and you know what? But that minimalist paint, I dig that. You know.
Did you hear Michael Cole call it a tattoo?
I did. Hear Michael Cole call it a tattoo. I tried to ignore it.
Can Michael Cole retire, please?
Oh man, greatest of all time, ladies and gentlemen. That's what he was called.
Greatest of all tattoos.
Yes, that's right. And here's the thing. Then they get into a hockey fight, which was mad. But then they fixed it. Then they got into a lot. Actually, they started really laying in their punches on a more serious basis. And this was a much more serious Balor than I'm used to. This was not over the top. He was focused. You know, I loved that float over Russian leg sweep into the Fujiwara armbar. That was just so nice.
I love that as well.
It was smooth, but it also made sense as to why he was doing it. And the only thing that got I started to laugh is that he started sounding like oh God, I forget what they were. One of the creatures in the Star Wars universe that goes, he's like, because every time he goes to land a punch or something, he goes, Yaboo! Yaboo! Yaboo!
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And and it just like, he just did it a few times and it just made me laugh. And I was like, oh, just a little too loud.
And this whole match felt like a struggle for control.
Yes. The only thing I don't like, the only thing I hate worse than Seth Rollins is superplex is his 3 topes in a row.
Yeah, I knew that would bother you. But hey, it's on one of them, he got Finn Balor good, and Finn was bleeding from the mouth. So we even got some juice in this match.
Well, that's the thing.
Much.
This juice was the juice that meant the most. And it really helped the match, I thought. It's and I said, it was right there. I said, this has been a better match than I've ever seen these two have. And it was probably the best Eye of the Hurricane that Balor ever used. You know, and he actually makes it look like that hurts.
Yeah.
He does.
And one thing I loved in this match, I have mixed opinions on this particular part. They did the callback to the powerbomb into the barricade that hurt Finn Balor in 2016, except Finn did it to Seth.
Right.
What I liked is he didn't get it right away. He had to fight for control, and then he was able to do it when he had a better position.
Yeah,
making this feel more like a fight.
Yeah.
My problem is they already did this spot on Raw a couple months ago. So it's not the first time that Finn has gotten a little bit of payback on Seth in this particular spot. It would have been better if he didn't do that move to him the last time they wrestled on Raw.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It would have been better here.
It has, but it still worked for what they were. And to be fair, props to WWE for actually trying to acknowledge their history a bit. Even in the package, Seth was a lot more serious. You know, when he really respects somebody, he puts all of that Waluigi stuff away. And no, he does, and that's one of the things. He did it with Riddle in that promo where Riddle said, "I will fuck you up, bro." And you know, that's when I wish Seth was like that all the time. But
yeah, me too.
But it's
although
okay.
I will say, does he have to come out at special events dressed like a vagina?
I don't know what was. I didn't even question it this time. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like,
Skyler with the immortal quote. He needs to have "What the fuck are you wearing?" put on a shirt. And
I know
so he can sell
it was rough. But, you know, he was dressing for both him and Becky because Becky was booted from the show. So, you know, he had to make up for both of them. But in any case.
Yeah, he should have given Finn Balor a manhandle slam or a Finn handle slam.
Well, speaking of other things that are things that I don't necessarily like but were refreshing in this match, did you notice that there weren't hand clasps on the armbar in this match? Finn just got the armbar, and Seth sold it like a goddamn armbar.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know how much that bothers me? I understand you clasp the arm, man, and you don't have your arm hurt, man. And we saw how effective that whole MMA akinning went earlier in the night. And
I didn't. I skipped that match.
Oh, man. It's comically bad, man. It is comically bad. You're going to hear a lot of laughter from me and Scott. Well, from me mostly. And
we might get a second chance to talk about it if we do the Grapplies at the end of the year.
Oh, it's up there as far as maybe one of the worst matches of the year. But I find it to be so comically. It's like, for me, it's so bad that it's so good. Like, I might watch it again after we finish recording. That's how fun.
Like that barbed wire Christmas tree match from TNA in 2007.
It's like you don't want to stare, but you can't look away. Between the crowd just completely leaving within 9 seconds, to them threatening to get mad and then starting to actually wrestle, to them doing rock'em sock'em robot punches that didn't land at all. Oh man, it's great,
dude.
It's great.
Even though I didn't watch, you could tell, like, with the next match, the crowd was so dead.
Oh no, they left fast on that. I mean, it was fast. They got one of those promotional animatronic cars that were the motif of the show and drove off. That's right. Well, then they I talked about the superplex. Getting back to this match, they did the superplex, but before he was able to do it. Again, inside cradle. I'm like, God damn, they made this match for me.
Mm-hmm. And then after he kicked it out and they did some more moves, then they sold a lot.
Yeah, I have to say, as overbooked as this finish was, I'm telling you, between me showing up at that Raw in Hartford for a halfway decent show that Raw had, to them listening to my Money in the Bank review, I think I have inspired Finn Balor enough to be like, I will make a fan out of this asshole.
Dude, those last 2 near falls had me.
Were great. Like, when Priest was there, when the rest of the Judgment Day was there, and
when he stomped Finn for the first time, I thought that was it. And then when Finn had the near fall, I thought that was it. But both times I was like, oh my God, and my heart started actually racing because I was so into it.
And I won't lie to you, I still hate the double stomp. It's a personal thing for me. However, I am willing to let it slide this time for the sake of how the match was going. Mm-hmm. And then I really didn't hate this finish because, you know, Priest offered to give Finn the briefcase to help him win. Finn said no, so Priest threw it in anyway after that didn't work out. And then Finn went to go maybe get it. Seth saw it, stomp, 1, 2, 3, and Priest was like, oh, well, that sucks. And grabbed the briefcase and left.
Dude, my 2 favorite things about the finish. 1, the stomp into the briefcase looked just devastating. Great. Like, crushed Finn Balor's skull.
Looked great.
2, I'm so disappointed in my child because he scored in his own goal look on Damian Priest's face when the bell rang.
That was wonderful.
Disappointed father Damian Priest was the funniest thing.
I know.
I loved it.
And you know what? I gotta say, this Judgment Day angle with them and Seth and Finn, I didn't know if I was gonna like it, but they're really dragging me into it. You know?
They're becoming the bloodline of Raw.
They're becoming actually something quite interesting to pay attention to week by week, which is something I didn't expect was going to happen, but I'm happy it is happening. And Finn Balor, I'll tell you this. Consistently, I don't know if this is going to be the case, but on this night, you had me. Because I loved this match. I loved everything about this match, and it's going to show that Raw's representing on their own, even though they're not really different brands, but they're different brands. But they showed out for this match, and I appreciate and applaud everyone involved because I had a lot of fun watching this.
I said this in my rant the other day about Santos Escobar and the LWO. Raw is starting to be a better wrestling show than SmackDown because SmackDown, when it's not the Bloodline, nothing's happening. Raw has a few things
and
happening.
Even when the Bloodline's on, half the time nothing's happening.
Yeah, when the Bloodline's in the ring, a lot of times they're just standing there waiting for Roman to get the fuck to the ring.
Yeah, so
He might still be wandering to the ring as we speak right now.
Yeah, as evidenced by the main event. But we got one more match to get there. All right, it is time for the triple threat match between Charlotte Flair. You have no idea why I'm laughing, folks, because I'm silly. It's Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair versus Asuka, or as I have affectionately termed it, Bianca Scarlet. And
that's a weird ship name.
That's right, the Bianca Scarlet. Yeah.
That'd be more fun to watch than them trying to wrestle each other.
Well, as many of the fans who have listened to this show before know, we have afforded ourselves a skip on these matches. And Skylar's was Balor and Rollins, and I really think that he should go back and watch that one because it was different than anything that they've done before. You skipped the hilariously bad Ronda and Shayna match, and I skipped this 25-minute snooze fest triple threat, which I knew I was not going to like, even though the ending and outcome of it were good, because I saw the finish and I saw what happened afterwards. So I'm fine with all of this because the outcome of it was great. But there was a whole lot of triple threat in this that I think I am not upset with missing. Even though I did try to go back and watch it, I got about 90 seconds into it, and I ended up turning into a Drake album. Because I started saying, you know what, actually, never mind.
Sean.
Yes,
Sean.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Sean.
Yes, sir.
You chose correctly.
Again.
This was not awful. Okay, this was basically two matches. The first, how long was it, 25 minutes? The first, 15 minutes of this. Dude, it was like a ghost town. You would be, if a pin dropped, it would sound like a gun going off. That's how quiet it was in the building. No one gave a single solitary shit about anything anyone did in this match, and it was sad.
Well, it was also a cool down from a very good Rollins and Balor match just a few short moments ago. So this was kind of a death spot for them. I'll give them that.
But even then, look at who's in this match. You have Bianca Belair, someone that the crowd is getting sick of.
Yeah.
Charlotte, someone who the crowd has been sick of for years.
Yes.
And who's the other person that was in this match? I forgot.
The consummate third wheel Asuka.
The story of Asuka's career is I'm the champion of this feud, and I'm somehow
and nobody gives a shit because I'm somehow not involved in the major overlying story of what's happening in the match. Yeah, this is pretty constant. You know what,
Asuka? If you want to be involved in the story, learn English.
Oh, that's not even the problem, I think.
I know. I just wanted to go there real quick.
It's just poor. Well, Skylar made something racial that he had no business making racial earlier. So,
oh, no.
So we're already past that point. But in any case.
Also, real quick, before the match even started, before I even get into this, even Asuka's positioning in the entrance to this match was hilarious. The champion in a triple threat match usually either comes out first or last.
Second.
She came out second.
And then Bianca comes out and poses with a C4 can, not the Spanish fly can, mind you. Because she wasn't running while she was carrying it. She was just standing there slowing the fly. If she was running, she'd be selling shit. If she was running to the ring, she'd have Spanish fly energy instead.
That was good. I like that. That was great.
Yeah. All right, continue.
But speaking of that, do they want the crowd to boo Bianca? Why would they give the babyface that everyone's getting sick of the product placement spot?
Because this is big match Bianca Maggle. Because that's how they view her. Do they want the crowd
to boo her? Are they trying to turn her heel?
No. They're trying to make her John Cena.
Charlotte. Give that to Asuka since you don't give a shit about her. Why would you give that to the person that everyone's already sick of?
She's on her own, against the wall. I don't know the rest of the words.
And she was even dressed in C4 colors.
Yeah. Of course. There's a product placement to be had.
I'm convinced that they want the crowd to dislike her.
When I saw that she came out with the C4 and literally posed with the C4, I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to watch this match. And I had it on mute that night, and I was looking up at it occasionally, so I saw certain important moments. Let me put it that way. So
yeah,
but
dude, that was cringe overload. But even for like the first 15 minutes, you wouldn't have been able to tell if your TV was muted or not because there was no sound coming out of the screen. And what made this even worse, Charlotte Flair. I've gone from acknowledging that she's a good wrestler, but I'm sick and tired of seeing her around the championship, to where I'm at now. She sucks. She's gotten so... I don't know what happened over the past couple of years, probably. What I think has happened, she's had so much surgery, so many adjustments to her body, that part of her body is literally plastic, so it's more difficult for her to move.
They've taken that's where they get all that plastic, is they just take clumps of brain and they just infuse it in with like Elmer's glue, and then they stick that into the cheeks and just pump it up a little bit. And that's what happens, and then you get like the weird, like those weird Joan Rivers eyes, and and that's kind of what she's gotten to here. And they mentioned Little Red Riding Hood with Charlotte, and let me tell you something. I wouldn't blame the Big Bad Wolf for eating Little Red Riding Hood if she came in looking like that. It's like, I don't mean that in a good way, folks. I mean, it's like, I think the Big Bad Wolf would start running away scared. It's like, here, you can keep your grandmother. Holy hell.
I wish that the Big Bad Wolf just reached into the screen and I wish this was just Bianca and Asuka again. Because Bianca and Asuka would be calling spots at the top of their lungs in front of a dead crowd.
The problem is the Big Bad Wolf passed out twice in his last match that he regrets calling his last match that 6,000 people watched on an indie show with this woman's husband.
Yeah.
But
like... That was the thing that infuriated me more than anything else in this match. Charlotte was multiple times when they were about to do something, you could hear her screaming, "Wait, wait, wait," and then other spots that she started loudly calling, to the point where I started yelling at my screen. It was so infuriating. And then she did a double natural selection where... This one was so bad that, when she tries to do it, she, tries to hook their head for a cutter.
Yeah.
This time she didn't even bother. She was, upside down, and she was just pressing their faces into the mat. She didn't even hook their heads. That's how bad it was. Yeah. It was like a double flipping running bulldog.
Oh,
one-handed bulldog that John Cena did. It was so bad. And then the moonsault.
That I saw, because I saw her setting up for this. I'm like, okay, I have to see if she's going to land this 30%. Let me tell you something. CIW wrestlers statistically do better than Charlotte does.
That was a solid 5% right there.
That was a 1%. She didn't touch her. And Bianca
she touched her with her index finger.
She touched literally maybe the tip of her braid. And she went down. She completely whiffed. It was it was bad. Even I was like, oh, that's way worse than usual.
That was so bad. I hate Charlotte.
And that was so midway through the match.
Yep.
That wasn't even there was so much more they were going to do.
Yep. And that's another thing. This match went on. With a match that goes on for a long time in front of a hot crowd, it can make the match feel like it's going faster. When there's a dead crowd, it makes the match feel longer. And this went forever.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. I was actually listening to some of the music I have on SoundCloud and Spotify and Apple Music, White Knux and ABI-ZZLE, and I was amazed how much of my music I got through in the time that this match was going on. I'm like, really? Going through another album?
How many times did you look up at the monitor and go, this is still going?
Quite a few, actually.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But finally, the last 5 minutes of the match, things started to pick up.
From the knee injury, quote-unquote, on.
Yeah, and okay, in our group chat, this made me laugh so hard. Skylar fell for this hook, line, and sinker, and it was so obvious that it was a work. Like,
I didn't see it being a problem.
But...
I didn't see it, like, Charlotte tosses Bianca down, and they don't really give a good angle of the leg, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't give an angle on the leg, and then Bianca goes down. She's selling it great. She's great at selling injury. That's probably why they want to keep her babyface for so much.
Well, she was good at selling it until she magically did a 450.
Well, and then that's what Skylar got mad, and I was like, well, it's... The sad thing is, I was actually more interested in the Asuka-Charlotte one-on-one at that point. I was like, okay, well, maybe they can have a decent one-on-one match and kind of make the best of this, and probably just, unfortunately, they would have given the belt to Charlotte as their audible, but but that's kind of part of the problem. This match as Charlotte versus Bianca would have been that's the money match, and Asuka's there. She just had that pesky, tricky part of having the belt.
Yeah.
And, and that's kind of the problem there. But I didn't hate the angle. It's just that the way that people just come back from those kinds of sells. And then Bianca didn't really sell it the rest of the match. Really.
No.
And that...
But I will say I did really like the finish.
The finish was clever. I will say that.
Was.
The finish was definitely clever. What was it?
So, basically... I don't know, Sean. But so basically...
Can you imagine neither of us actually saw it?
Because you didn't watch and I fell asleep.
That's right.
So Charlotte puts Bianca in the figure 4 and is transitioning into the figure 8, and Bianca magically remembers that her leg is supposed to be hurting. So Asuka crawls back in the ring, and she's like, I'm still in this match, damn it! And she sprays mist into the face of Charlotte, she's getting more creative with these mist spots. And it went right in Charlotte's face and mouth, and I was like, good. Fuck you, Charlotte, right. You deserve that. You serves her right. And so...
It's not the first time she's had foreign liquid on her face.
Ew. Wouldn't that like erode away some of the plastic?
You'd have to ask Andrade, I suppose.
So Charlotte falls down, but she still has the figure 4 applied. And Asuka tries to go for the roundhouse kick that won her the title back at Night of Champions. She misses it, and Bianca cradles her while still in the figure 4 and gets the 1, 2, 3. If you're going to do a babyface spot to try to get Bianca over as a babyface, that's the kind of babyface spot you need to do. Because it's like, how the fuck did you do that?
And that was super clever. But I think kind of to the point that you and I and Skylar have all said about Bianca being stale, they must have known this because the crowd was kind of ambivalent about it. They were kind of, as clever as the finish was, they were kind of ambivalent about it. And then Io Sky came along, and people went berserk.
People went nuts.
They went berserk, and Io winning it was the move. Bayley celebrating. I'm glad they didn't turn Bayley right then and there. I'm glad they're slow burning that and letting her be happy for her, with her.
The crowd even popped a little bit when Dakota Kai got into the ring to help celebrate.
Yeah. And it's amazing because it's been a year since they were together. They formed, and they formed at Bianca's expense, which that irony was not lost on me. And they spent a whole year doing jack all of shit.
They won the women's tag team titles.
Yeah, and ever since I saw something on Facebook the other day about this. Ever since Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out, every champion has had to vacate or lose the titles due to an injury. All of them. And Sonya Deville just got injured. They're going to have to do it again.
Wow.
Yeah. Those belts are cursed, man. But
it's the universe begging them to just trash those tag team belts.
Yeah. Invest more in the quality of the women rather than the belts that they're wearing.
Yeah. But you want to know what's sad? Dakota Kai got more of a reaction than Bianca Belair.
Yeah. But
what does that tell you?
It was kind of that way a year ago, but it's so much more drastic now. But clearly, they recognize this. They recognize this, which is why it worked so well having Io Sky walk away with the belt at the end of the night. And that's why you can, again, maybe if this were a 15-minute match instead of a 25-minute match, it would have landed even more. Maybe if Charlotte Flair could land a moonsault, that would have landed even more.
Like she nailed that second. She did a second moonsault on like when they were both prone, and it actually landed. It was a good moonsault.
Yeah, because that's the one she hits.
The one to the outside.
Yeah, that's the one she needs to stop doing and just let Adam Page botch it. But in any case, I think that the Bianca gets screwed at SummerSlam again by basically the same people. I love all of that. I love all of that. The taking Bianca's moment a second time at SummerSlam. SummerSlam has not been kind of Bianca Belair. All right, here we are. It's main event time, and folks, I promise you, we are going to attempt to get to the point faster than this match did. It is Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso in Tribal Combat. And Skylar.
That was a terrible cover.
Well, because I'm not trying to get sued. We just got back. I'm not trying to get subpoenaed. You know, I don't have the money to just voluntarily get a back surgery to avoid summons.
I mean, you have enough money to make your own music, but whatever.
Well, but that's why I don't have to pay into the software for that, at least not anymore. But it's the Tribal Come to Jesus meeting for the WWE Universal Championship. And now, for those of you who don't know, Tribal Combat just means no disqualification. And okay, why don't we start about what did you think about the match?
What match?
Good question.
This was not a pro wrestling match. This was the Roman Reigns I'm going to talk and emote for 35 minutes show.
This was the 2-hour season either cliffhanger or finale from a soap opera. Because this
Lost got to the point quicker than this match did.
That's a great deep cut. And there was an unexplained polar bear in that shit. And it still got to the point. Yeah, no, man, this was all over the damn road. The entire island of Samoa is smaller than how long this took. I mean, think about that, folks. That is definitely a measurable amount. And at this point, I was so tired. It was 11:35 when the bell rang. And they started the main event package at 11:12.
Well, that's because Roman Reigns had to walk the entire Isle of Samoa to get to the ring.
Yeah, well, apparently so did Jey. As it took forever for this to go on. And I know that these entrances take a long time normally, but something about tonight, and maybe it was the fact that it was 11:35 when this started.
And think about this. They're in Detroit, so it's 10:35 there, and they've been through 3.5 hours of wrestling.
Yeah, and with a lot of good wrestling on the show, and this just wouldn't start. It was like trying to start your lawnmower without a tank of gas in it. And it's just sputtering.
Even before the match began, the whole thing with the beads took forever.
Oh my God. And just looking at the beads. And no, I thought what I thought Danny Angles was asking was like, with the beads, you know, he was going to hold that up with the belt because it was for both of them. But that didn't even happen. Roman just took it and just said, "You beat me, I'll put it on you myself," and then just handed it back to Paul. So, like, what was the point? But
oh no,
if you're not down with that, Sky, I got 2 words for you.
What are they?
Red undies. And
I hate you.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. And Oh, man. And then this just... Well, then we got a collar and elbow tie-up, but we got about 5-6 minutes.
It took 5 minutes to get the collar and elbow tie-up.
Yeah, and then about 5 minutes later, I'm like, boy, this tribal combat that's all about, blood feud really looks an awful lot like a slow wrestling match, doesn't it? This was... But
hang on. The reason why I don't call this a wrestling match is because wrestling matches have an ebb and a flow and a pace to them. They usually have a beginning, middle, and end. This was just a slog
to
get through.
This was on life support. This whole thing was on life support. From the opening bell, it just would not get going. And here's my question to you, Sky. Now, I know that we have accosted WWE before for being over gimmicky sometimes. Remember that the pub brawl that they had with the Brawling Brutes and Thing Imperium? And they had like the beer kegs and the steins, and they had that weird African drum fight with Big E and Apollo Crews.
Well, who can forget on Monday Night Raw a couple months ago when they did the Viking Raiders versus Chad Gable and Otis in a Viking rules match with the shield and the ship and the ringside?
Yeah. So why couldn't you have added, at the very least, like a couple of tiki torches around the ring? Just give me something that implies what tribal combat even means in this situation. Because neither of them really did anything different from anything they've ever done on any wrestling show ever, except take twice as long to do it.
But that's always what Roman Reigns does.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But even for Roman Reigns matches, this took long. I mean, it just... And folks, we hate to be repetitious, but that's really all you could say. I mean, Jey Uso pulls out a table, and LA Knight got a hell of a pop earlier in the night, but nothing gets a pop like a table.
Because finally something was happening.
Yeah, and then it didn't for another 20 minutes or so. But then... But
also, can I just say that, like, Roman Reigns is truly a student of the game, and I mean that literally. He's doing everything that Triple H did during the Reign of Terror.
Like the stair spot?
Yes. Yes, including the stair spot. But also that little thing that Triple H does, and I hate this, whenever he gets like a headlock or whatever, and then he starts like emoting to the camera. Triple H used to do that too, and I hate it.
Yes, he does.
Again, Roman Reigns has learned from everything he can from Hunter, and it annoys me.
Well, and you think about it, the timeline of the amount of time that Triple H reigned of terror, the amount of time that Roman Reigns has reigned of terror, are pretty darn close now. So
yeah, except every once in a while Triple H would lose the belt. Now he would get it back quickly because he was a heel and there was bullshit involved. But Roman Reigns has held this belt for 3 years now.
Well, there were also a lot of more... Well, no, I can't say that. But also, keep in mind, Triple H was also used as a Vince McMahon spite device to just bury WCW wrestlers, too. It wasn't even just Triple H deciding that those guys weren't going over. He didn't do it for his buddy Kevin. And he probably would have. But that wasn't what that year on Raw was about. But in any case, that is a story for another time. Shortly after this whole thing with the table, before it got broken, we had the line of commentary on the night. Because Corey Graves is like, well, what happens if Jey Uso wins and Roman Reigns is no longer tribal chief and Paul Heyman loses his meal ticket? And then Michael Cole goes, well, I'll have to go back to the street corner. And I said, did Michael Cole just suggest that Paul Heyman is going to have to sell his body?
No, he meant that he was going to have to panhandle. What is wrong with you?
What's wrong with me? What's wrong with the person that hires Heyman for selling his body on the street corner? I don't know. Maybe I guess he didn't mention the red light district, but it's still...
Why did your mind go to the red light district?
Hey, well, everybody has to love somebody. Paul Heyman too. I mean, hey, maybe he'd make a coin out there. I don't know. In any case,
Stephen A. Smith, go away.
What does Stephen A. Smith have to do with it?
Earlier in the week, Paul Heyman did a thing on Stephen A. Smith, ESPN First Take.
Oh yeah, well that's right. Well, if Paul Heyman is the GOAT, then it shouldn't be that hard to take over the red light district. He could be a pimp in no time. If he's such a damn good manager, if he's the greatest manager of all time, he'll be able to rack up a whole mess. Anyway, he should hit up the Godfather. In any case, that's right. He and Charles Wright have a lot to talk about.
He did used to work with the Godfather,
That's right. Maybe he'll hook him up and get Paul Heyman on the whole train. But
at the China Club.
It's okay.
Okay, can we get back to this match, though?
But listen, all of you prostitutes who might be thinking about getting under Paul Heyman's regime, do not accept any checks he gives you. There is statistical evidence to back this up. So, anyway.
Why you had to do the man dirty like that?
That's it. He did it to himself. It was his show. It was his company. But anyway, all of that is to say that I do love Paul's toadying at ringside. He is truly a tremendous manager because he's great. It's like, oh, my tribal chief, I love you, my tribal chief. And then they do the thing with the kendo stick, and you know my feelings about kendo shit.
Kendo shit?
Kendo shit. That's what it is. You know me in that. And the next thing I wrote down, because we're about halfway into this match, and we're still just sitting there, and I was like, dude, this is whole milk mozzarella right now. It's just so...
They milked that Samoan cow until it died.
That Samoan cow didn't stand a goddamn chance. And you know what made it worse? I'm not going to blame Kevin Dunn for this. I'm going to blame the cameramen for this. They were zooming in and out any time and anyone looked up at all. They cut to that camera, and that camera would zoom in, and then he'd start to move, and they'd have to zoom out, and then he'd pause for a second, and they'd zoom back in. It was so many zooms in and out, it was making my head spin.
I mean, that's just Roman Reigns making sure that he gets his teeth on.
Well, yeah, but the cameramen were going crazy. They were, like, going way too hard. I don't know whether Kevin Dunn were just yelling in their ear, which is entirely possible, or whether the cameramen were just doing the best they could to get the close-up shot, but it was just not... They
had to acknowledge the white teeth.
Yeah, well, and then Jey Uso tried to bash him in with about 40 chairs that he brought into the ring, because, they have about... It's an old Samoan custom. 7 to 9 chairs in the middle of the ring just strewn about. Always happens in tribal combat. Anytime on the island they're trying to settle a dispute, they just get 7 to 9 generic black steel chairs and just lay them in the middle of a field on the beach, and they just go at it right on
I know this is tribal combat, and it would have been a little bit silly, but I wish that Jey Uso would have done the thing where he painted half his face like he used to.
Something different. Anything different that separated this from just a regular no disqualification match, other than that it went 35 minutes, and
Roman Reigns talked a lot.
And they talked a lot. And the next thing I wrote down was the only thing worse than an overly weaponized match is an overly milked, overly weaponized match. And here's the thing, and you and I mentioned this a little bit during Drew versus Gunthar. The fans really weren't into this because they knew what we know. And that Jey Uso did not have a snowball's chance in hell of walking away from this match the WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion.
But here's the thing. WWE has tried to do this thing where they make you think that he has a chance by giving him a lot of offense and then having bullshit happen to, like, make sure that stuff... I mean, here's the thing. I'm tired of interference with Roman Reigns matches. They happen every time.
It's constant, But at that point, I mean, by the time the interference came in, I was just like, please make this over. I wasn't even at that point. They got to the Samoan drop table spot, and I was like, okay, something, finally. But even still, with Sammy, you weren't sure. But with Cody, that should have happened. We're going to get to that in just a minute, I have a feeling. But that was the one where Cody should have won it. But it's this time, you knew for a fact Jey wasn't that much of a threat. You knew it. You just knew it. There was no way that they were going to put the belt on Jey Uso. I like Jey Uso. This is no offense to the guy, but they're not putting their world's title on Jey Uso.
Right, this is not WWE 2K whatever, where you randomly make, I don't know, any mid-carder a champion.
Yeah, this is not Vince Russo booking. This is not going to happen like that. And the thing is...
I mean, at least when they did the Samoan drop table thing and Roman Reigns busted his elbow, at least there was some juice.
Yeah, but it didn't... Here's the weird thing. To me, at that point, the first thing that came to my mind was, boy, this juice doesn't mean as much as it did in the Balor versus Rollins match.
Or the Gunthar and McIntyre match.
Yes.
Or the Cody or Brock match. There was a lot of juice tonight.
There was a lot of juice. Unintended juice. Yeah, a lot of hard ways on this show. But then, finally...
But this was the least meaningful juice because, again, like, this did not feel like a blood feud match.
Yeah. No, it didn't. It didn't. And then they, go crawl around to the tables on the outside that are all, away from the fans and perfectly lit. And here comes Solo. And then did you notice that Jey Uso was helping Solo drag him back to the ring? With his legs, just pushing with his legs. I'm like, yeah, that's a great image. Jey Uso helping Solo look like he's dragging him. And then they do the barricade spot. And this is when it finally started to pick up, but this is my big problem with Roman Reigns matches. It takes 4.5 minutes for about 90 seconds of really good stuff. And then it's over.
And not just that, but, like, this is stuff that is getting to the point of a logical. Like, yes, we know that Solo Sikoa is under Roman Reigns' heel. Although it may not be that longer because they did tease dissension between the two, but whatever. We got the picture for that. What was this finishing sequence where Jey Uso tried to give us the idea that maybe he'll win?
It didn't.
Tell me what's wrong with it.
Nobody believes it. Nobody believed. That's my big thing. Nobody believed Jey Uso was going to win this match. And the thing is, they do the thing that I feel like everybody kind of saw was their way out of this match. They did it the one way they always, well, first of all, they do it this way all the time, and the Black Hoodie budget in the Anoa'i family is clearly through the fucking roof. Cause
I mean, the Red Indies are probably paying for it.
Yeah, so. Literally everyone's got the same Black Hoodie in that family, and so Jimmy Uso kicks Jey, and everyone's like, oh my God, how could this have happened? And most people are like, because it's the only way it could have. But here's my question. If Jey's leaving the bloodline because they're kicking Jimmy out so they can have the tag match, what purpose does Jimmy have to betray Jey for no reason in this fight anyway to begin with?
He doesn't.
He doesn't. There's no purpose to it. And this is where, and like you said, it's getting to the sense of nonsensical. And the confused look on Roman Reigns is the exact confused look that everybody else had. And I don't mean to quote Dark Side of the Ring again, but Jeff Jarrett, if you confuse him, you lose him. And I felt like more people left confused than they did angry that Roman won, which was the outcome we all knew was happening to begin with.
And again, it's this thing of, like, they give the person that's going to lose so much offense to make you think that he's going to win despite the interference, and then something happens that is no explanation and leads to a loss. It happened with John Cena match. Yep. It happened with the Edge match, the Brock match, the Finn Balor match, the AJ match, the Kevin Owens match, the Sami match. Every time.
And yet, this one was probably the worst out of all of those. A, because the outcome was never in doubt. B, because it took 35 minutes to get there at 11:20 at night for them, let alone past midnight for the folks out on the East Coast. And the match itself just wasn't good. It was a match, but it wasn't good because it just took so long to get to anywhere. I was falling asleep. And this is kind of where we said, Sky, at WrestleMania, that the bloom was going to start to come off this rose. It was just a matter of how long it was going to take for the first few petals to fall. Where are we at now?
We're at a place where they should not have continued. And listen, Sean, I hate to do this. I really hate to do this because I know this will invoke your ego and stroke it. But you were right. They should have taken the title off of Cody because I held out hope that they could at least make this story interesting enough with the bloodline stuff that they could stretch it. And I'm sorry, but this is not interesting enough. So, Sean, you were right and I was wrong.
Well, and the problem is I'm not necessarily right because if you look at the ratings, everybody's tuning in to see as the bloodline turns, as Jim Cornette has coined it.
But that's the worst part is that they're eating this up.
Yeah. Well, and then so long as they're doing that, they're going to keep doing that. But you got to remember, this show is not catered to us. This show is catered to a much wider demographic, and the fact that they're gaining so many more people, I'm all about that. However, can you imagine how many more people they would have gotten if all of this were combusting while Cody had maybe a 3-month feud with Brock for the belt instead?
Right, because the thing is that you could have done this story without the belt. Honestly, the belt at this point is not what's important. It was literally the title of Tribal Chief that was on the line.
Correct.
And you could have easily had Cody finish his story. He's finally become the champion. He's on Monday Night Raw. He's celebrating. In comes Brock Lesnar, F5. And then you could have the series of matches with Cody and Brock leading to the main event of SummerSlam and Brock shaking Cody's hand and anointing him as the new face of the company. And then you could have Roman and Jey be on the undercard, and Roman and Jey's being part of the bloodline falling apart story. Roman finally wins, gets away from the bloodline, and wants to go back for the title. You could have done this perfectly.
Well, and when you think about it, it would make sense that the second that Roman Reigns loses the belt, the guy who has got the clause where he can't challenge for it while Roman has it is the first guy in line to challenge for it when somebody else has got it. Because that would be what Brock does. His second Cody's got the belt. Okay, great. I can fight for it again. Boom. Right into the building comes Brock Lesnar saying, my belt. My belt now. I can do it. But instead, this is the direction they went. And this is probably my least favorite Roman Reigns match of this title run. Well, okay, second least favorite, because there's nothing that's going to be worse than that Finn Balor match. And that's not even Finn Balor's fault. That was WWE bad booking.
Yeah, but this is more of it. Just more of booking of long equals epic in Triple H's mind, which he did back in NXT, even during the golden age of NXT. We reviewed matches from NXT towards the end. Yes, we're like, Triple H, you could have shaved off 10, 15 minutes in this match that was 35 minutes, could have gone 20 and got the point across.
Oh, yeah. Well, and now here's the question, Sky, before we do our little wrap-up here and we give the rating. What do you do now for the next 6 to 8 months as we're waiting for Cody to get back to him? Because as much as you're going to build LA Knight, you can't have LA Knight fight and beat Roman Reigns. You know, you're not going to be able to do that.
You could have LA Knight challenge Roman, but you're going to kill that enthusiasm very quickly.
Yeah, I think there's just better ways to capitalize on LA Knight's strength right now and the fact that he is over like Rover. And
yeah, but here's the thing: he should have won the U.S. title from Austin Theory on SummerSlam.
I don't know why people wanted that so badly. I don't know if that's what.
Because if you're gonna make a mid-card belt meaningful, why not put it on the hot act right now? And is Austin Theory doing anything with the belt, really?
Well, he's not. But then, do you not also run the risk of, if you have too many good matches to put on your show, that LA Knight ends up being bumped for having that championship? Like, I feel like right now he's over enough where he doesn't need that belt. He's almost bigger than that belt right now.
But that's the problem, is that right now he's building and building and building, but it has to lead to something. As good as the Battle Royal win was for LA Knight, he needs something definitive. Now, again, him challenging Roman Reigns and Roman beating him will be just like Reign of Terror Triple H.
Right. But if you want a good match for Royal Rumble leading up to, him going up.
Forget Rumble. What are they going to do for Survivor Series?
Well, I feel like that could be. So unfortunately, they're going to try and shoehorn Kevin and Sammy back into this. Because now we've got.
If anything, maybe that will be when Solo tries to fight Roman. I don't know. There's going to be Solo wrestling Roman at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. The point is, all of this could have been avoided by not being skittish about it at WrestleMania 39.
But we have to have it be at 40 because that's the more aesthetically pleasing number, apparently.
I said it, Sky, then. I said they missed their chance. This was it. And they missed their chance. And every passing day, it gets more and more evident that that is the case. But let's get to ratings, Sky. So why don't you tell me, well, in the great words of Jesse Ventura, why don't you tell me what your ratings are?
I can't do a good Gorilla Monsoon, so I'm just going to go into my thing. This is tough because now we have to talk about, like, the show as a whole. And the show as a whole was a good show. There are definitely some quality matches that you should go back and watch. And for what SummerSlam is, this was what it needed to be, except that main event, which is whatever. I think you take this show, average it out, it comes out to about 7.
I think that's a fair statement. I'm going to actually do mine twice. So, fans, you're going to hear my ratings twice, once with me and Skylar, once with me and Josh again. But my thought was basically about the same. I gave it a 7.5 for the same reason. There was a lot of really good on this show. Statistically, if they bat this kind of an average, I'm a happy guy. Keep giving us shows like this, I'm not going to be disappointed. And because when the bad is just comically bad, then you can allow for a few concessions. But there was a lot of good, but I think it's more the danger of what the main event symbolizes. Even though people are eating it up, that's what worries me. What are we going to get for the next 6 to 8 months? But Sky, we will return. You and I are going to find the time to nail down. We're going to talk about this Dark Side of the Ring show. All right, buddy?
Yep, we got to talk about season 4. We've of been hinting at it through videos, but we got to talk about the season because there's been a lot of interesting stuff that's been revealed.
That's right. And so, folks, stay tuned for Skylar and I. We're not going to take another 2 months between shows this time. So stick around for the two of us. And Sky, as always, thank you much for joining, my friend. JoshAgeddon, at this point, they have heard me and Skylar give our ratings. I'll tell you what mine was. It was a 7.5. So why don't you give us your ratings and your briefest of explanations on what you felt about the other 4 matches?
All right, so I enjoyed the first match. I thought it was a decent opener. Outside of Cody using the steel steps and the referee doing nothing, I thought that Cody Brock 3 was the best of their trilogy, and it was my third favorite match on the show. The Battle Royal was good. I didn't watch the MMA match. Fuck that. The Intercontinental title match between Drew and Gunthar was my favorite match and finish on the show. I loved it. I loved the world title match, my second favorite match on the show. The women's title match was boring as fuck until the last 5 minutes, and then things, started happening. And I enjoyed the main event, even though it took 8,000 years. Well, so overall, I thought this was a good show. WWE's been on a roll this year. They have yet to have a bad pay-per-view this year, and it's actually kind of impressive. When's the last time they've gone on such a not bad show stretch?
Well, I can't tell you, honestly. Like, the shows have ranged from okay to really good.
Yeah.
So, but we have not had a dumpster show in a while.
Yeah, in a good while. So this show overall, I really liked it. I didn't think it was amazing. I didn't think it was great. And nothing really, outside of EO winning, which was kind of predictable, nothing like big happened. This was not like the biggest summer. It didn't really feel like the biggest party of the summer, but it was still a good show. I honestly would give this a 7 out of 10. A solid 7 out of 10.
Wow, that's amazing. I gave it the highest rating of the three of us. By half a point.
What did Skylar gave it a 7 as well?
Skylar gave it a 7. And speaking of Skylar, I promised, as we did the show close, that I would bring this up. I'm going to read some numbers for you.
Okay.
Bruno Sammartino, 2,803. Hulk Hogan, 1,474. Bruno Sammartino, again, 1,237. Roman Reigns, 1,072. Or 73 by the time this airs. Unless he loses the show, the title at a live event, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Imagine.
But the reason that Skylar wanted me to bring this up, that if WWE wants to continue this trend of rewriting their own history like they're doing with Gunthar and they did with the tag championships with Demolition, likely they're going to want to not just get past Bruno's first reign, but probably Hogan's as well, which would mean that Roman would have to hold the belt until Rumble 25. With the way that they're trying to milk this for all it's worth, do they do this?
Absolutely. They should. Again, everyone has been saying this since WrestleMania. WrestleMania should have been when Cody won it.
Yes. Yes.
And WrestleMania 40 should also be when Cody wins it.
Yes.
But if Cody doesn't win at next year's WrestleMania and Roman is champion still
for another year, basically,
dude, at that point I will have way past been sick of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think the problem is they're getting higher ratings than they ever have. And that's the thing. They're getting audiences that are not us, which is why they're going to keep milking it for all it's worth, because it's what's working. And,
damn it, people, stop watching.
And well, obviously we don't want that. I mean, the fact that the Bloodline is getting this many people invested is great. It's healthy for the wrestling business. It's good to see WWE actually gaining viewers for a change.
I know, it's weird. Like their Bloodline segments, didn't it? Like they cracked 3 million.
They have. But even LA Knight getting 2 million on a pre-show segment. It's like they're popping numbers, bigger numbers than they've been popping for a long time, and it's worth noting that they could let this get past Hulk Hogan's. But if it is so, we are in for a long haul. And then who is it? Braun Breaker? Is it Cody for 3 consecutive WrestleManias?
Oh my, at that point, Cody would not survive another WrestleMania loss.
Well, what else would he do for another year? Win the World Heavyweight title? It's
the consolation belt, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Bring Brock back so they can have a rerun of this trilogy.
Well, and that was the thing that Skylar and I mentioned. If Cody had won that belt at 39, the first matchup he could have for 3 months was Brock Lesnar, because finally the clause would have been lifted that Brock couldn't compete for it because Roman had the belt. No sooner does Roman lose the belt than first in line is Brock Lesnar. It would have worked, and then all of this Roman and Jey stuff could have worked as undercard matches or one of the 4 main events. What?
You stop that right now.
You know what? That's a great idea. Folks, we're going to go to our first commercial break. JoshAgeddon.
I didn't mean literally.
JoshAgeddon, thank you very much for that suggestion and for joining the show as always. And hopefully we will not have a lights out match next time. You will be able to keep the lights on like the Motel 6. And we will
Where's
have
John Moxley? I want blood.
Well, not here. Not here. You can get
tax.
You can get
Barbed wire.
badass. And we're going to see you right after this break.